A black-haired man with glasses works at a convenience store and notices a customer has dropped her keys. The convenience store worker runs outside to return the keys to a woman with light-colored hair who thanks him profusely. The woman offers to buy the worker a meal to thank him, but he internally suspects she has ulterior motives. The worker, identified as Endu-san, internally panics about his social skills, but is seen having a meal with the woman. A different woman with light-colored hair and a cap offers to buy the cashier a drink, but he declines and walks away. The woman who offered to buy Endu a meal is shown smiling confidently while holding the keys he returned to her. A few days later, a young man named Shokun is playing games on his computer when his mother asks him to buy milk. Shokun tries to refuse, but his mother reminds him that he'll miss his own birthday party if he doesn't go. Overhearing his mother lamenting his absence from his 24th birthday party, Shokun guiltily agrees to go to the store. On his 24th birthday, Shokun feels empty returning home and notices an unfamiliar pair of women's shoes in the entryway. Upon entering, Shokun is greeted by a smiling, light-haired woman who welcomes him home, calling him Shohei-kun. Shohei's mother introduces the woman as her coworker Izumi Asano and announces that Izumi wants to go out with him. Shohei stands shocked between the two women, confused by his mother's statement. Izumi Asano holds up a set of keys and asks if Shohei-kun remembers her from the convenience store. Izumi explains she saw his Endu name tag and later met his mother, Fuyumi Endu, at work, calling it fate. Izumi gets close to Shohei, pressing her chest against him as she asks him to try going out with her. Shohei's mother, Fuyumi, tearfully congratulates him on getting a girlfriend and urges the two to go talk alone. As Shohei and Izumi walk outside, he reflects on how strange this birthday is compared to his usual lonely celebrations with his mother. At his convenience store job, Shohei questions how a loner like him could suddenly have a girlfriend, suspecting it's all a lie. Izumi asks for Shohei's social media, but he refuses. She then offers to buy him coffee, and he reluctantly agrees. At a coffee shop, Shohei asks Izumi why she would want to date him when he's struggling financially. Izumi says his mother praises him and suggests they just try dating with no risk, becoming strangers again if it doesn't work out. Shohei realizes the logic is flawed and that the situation is strange, but Izumi grabs his hand and tells him to wait. Izumi earnestly pleads with Shohei to go out with her even if it's just for a month or two. Shohei, overwhelmed by her insistence, tries to refuse, saying she can find another man, but she says it wouldn't be a challenge. Izumi seems offended after Shohei misinterprets her words, thinking she meant any man would do. As a new couple enters, Shohei is confused by the situation, and a young man with wavy hair recognizes him, calling out Endu. The man is Tatyama, an old middle school classmate at Endo's who is accompanied by another former classmate, Ichino's. Endo observes his former classmates, noting they appear to be dating. Tatyama mistakes Izumi for Endo's sister. Endu silently panics, hoping Izumi won't say anything strange in front of his old classmates, but she looks at him and says no. Izumi introduces herself and leans affectionately on Shohei, announcing that they are. Izumi finishes her sentence, declaring that she and Shohei are going out, much to the surprise of Tatyama and Ichinose. Shohei has a frantic vision of his reputation being destroyed if his classmates discover the lie. After the classmates leave, Shohei confronts Asano-san about her lie, but she calmly says it's fine because they now look like a couple. Asano gets very close to Shohei, whispering that friends don't act this way, before playfully shoving him. Shohei becomes flustered when Asano-san puts her hand on his leg under the table. Asano explains they need to act close to not look like siblings and gives Shohei money to pay for their coffee. The deception works, and as they leave the cafe and walk through a park, Izumi remarks that she's sure they looked like lovers. Izumi stretches and confesses she was very nervous during the encounter with his classmates. Shohei fantasizes about what living with Izumi would be like, imagining her asking if he wants to touch her. Shohei's fantasy continues with him waking up next to Izumi and reaching for her bosom. Shohei snaps out of his daydream, yelling that it's not what he wants and demanding the truth from Asano-san. In a flashback, Shohei remembers his social isolation in a school classroom, believing no woman would ever like him. He recalls feeling like an outcast in school, watching popular classmates socialize while he was alone. Shohei reflects that popular people remain popular and he remains alone, convinced that nothing changes after growing up. Izumi looks at Shohei expectantly, and he angrily demands to know what she's really after. Shohei accuses Izumi of having an unnatural interest in him, suggesting she enjoys looking down on him to feel superior. He continues his accusation, saying it must feel good for her to be with someone miserable to appreciate her own blessed life. After listening to his theory, Izumi finally relents and says she gives up, preparing to tell him the truth. Back at home, Shohei and Izumi sit at the dinner table as his mother asks what happened between them. Izumi cheerfully announces that they've decided to go out, and Fuyumi is overjoyed, thanking her profusely. Fuyumi cries with happiness, exclaiming that Shohei can finally be a real person, which leaves him looking annoyed. A flashback reveals that an hour earlier, Izumi told Shohei his mother had asked her to go on a trial run with him. Izumi explains that Fuyumi claimed Shohei was a hikikomori and begged her for help, which Shohei corrects by stating he's just a loner. Izumi says she was just trying to help, but figures he wants nothing to do with her now. Surprisingly, Shohei says no. Shohei tearfully suggests they should go out, asking her to imagine how his mother would feel if they returned and said no. In a flashback to a conversation between Fuyumi and Izumi, Fuyumi emotionally thanks Izumi for giving her son a good memory. The flashback continues with Fuyumi's dramatic declaration that she'll do her best as his mother, which convinces Izumi to agree. Back on the park bench, Shohei and Izumi agree to pretend they're dating and devise a strategy to end it naturally without arousing his mother's suspicion. Fuyumi is shown kneeling on the floor at home, crying that she is losing her mind over her son, Shohei. Shohei clarifies that he's only agreeing to the plan so his mother won't be depressed, not because he cares about Izumi. She then asks if they should exchange social media accounts to start. Shohei lies that he doesn't have a cell phone to avoid exchanging contacts, thinking to himself that he doesn't need one since he's not in contact with anyone anyway. In a hotel room, Ichino tells a shirtless Tatyama that seeing Endo-kun was nostalgic. When asked why he spoke to Endo, Ichino lies in bed next to him. Tatyama says it was because of the woman with the big bosom next to him, which annoys Ichino. A flashback shows Tatyama being served by Shohei at the convenience store while Rika Ichino complains to a friend on the phone about her boyfriend looking at a girl's bosom. A week later, Shohei is lying in his bed, tormented by the memory of telling Izumi that her actions weren't good. Shohei writhes in his bed, agonizing over how he told Izumi she could find another man and her disappointed reaction, feeling incredibly sorry. Shohei reflects that Asano-san was only helping because his mom asked, yet he treated her poorly. He debates apologizing, but decides against it just as someone knocks on his door. His mother, Fuyumi, enters his room with 2 movie tickets she claims she got from an insurance salesperson asking if he wants them. Fuyumi suggests Shohei take Izumi-san on a date with the tickets. Shohei internally panics, realizing the tickets are just general admission and that his mother is lying about the salesperson. Shohei deduces that his mother bought the tickets herself. She excitedly hands them to him, saying Izumi will enjoy it, leaving him feeling trapped. Frustrated, Shohei sits at his computer and types a message to Asano-san, inviting her to the movies but telling her she doesn't have to listen to his mother. Shohei imagines going to the movie, eating, and then breaking up, which would appease his mother. He decides to just give her the ticket and sends the message. Shohei sits in front of his computer, filled with regret, wondering why things are becoming so complicated when all he had to do was pretend. Shohei finds himself sitting next to a pouting Izumi in a movie theater, wondering how he ended up on a date with her. A flashback to an hour earlier shows Shohei awkwardly giving the movie tickets to a smiling Izumi who notes his formal tone. As Shohei tries to leave, Izumi stops him, insisting he should act as if he's on a date with his mom since they're both free and have tickets. Back in the theater, Shohei finds the romance movie unrelatable due to its attractive cast and feels forced to watch it. Shohei starts to feel drowsy, realizing the movie's classical music is lulling him to sleep because he's used to sleeping in the morning after his night shifts. As he drifts off, Shohei notices Izumi is crying at the movie and thinks he never would have expected her to be the type to get emotional like this. Shohei has the thought that he can't reach out to her. He looks over at Izumi, who has a serious expression as she looks back at him. After the movie, Izumi wakes Shohei up. She asks if he usually sleeps at this time and suggests they follow his plan to go to a restaurant. Shohei tries to end their date by thanking her, planning to kill time at an internet cafe before going home. Izumi counters by suggesting they eat together since they take the same train. At a restaurant, Izumi apologizes for making him go to the movies, feeling guilty that he slept through it. Shohei tells her it's fine and not a burden. Izumi serves Shohei food, making him feel awkward. He notes her surprising concern for others' feelings, and she explains that she's acting differently today because she's not as desperate as she was last time. Izumi explains that last time she was desperate to appease his mother, but today she genuinely wanted to share a fun experience with him, even though it failed. Shohei wonders if Asano-san is simply a nice person who wanted him to have fun, but then recalls her saying she only cares about his mother's feelings and that she would be concerned about anyone who looked unhappy. To spare her feelings, Shohei loudly insists he fell asleep because the movie was boring, not because he was tired. Shohei makes an exaggerated comparison of the movie's length to the age of the universe to downplay his sleepiness, telling Izumi not to worry. Izumi laughs, accepting his explanation and thanking him for his kindness. Shohei tells her again not to worry about it. Izumi calls Shohei by his first name, which startles him. She reminds him they are supposed to be lovers and says she will keep calling him Shohei until he gets used to it. Izumi proposes they become real friends instead of just faking a relationship for his mother, suggesting they continue to go out like this in the future. Shohei agrees to her proposal. Izumi then says it's time to go and gets ready to leave the restaurant. Shohei offers to split the bill, but Izumi insists on paying since she got a free movie ticket, reminding him that she also paid for their coffee before. On the train ride home, Shohei and Izumi sit in silence, each looking at their own phone. Shohei reflects on Izumi's desire to have fun with him and feels sorry that she likely didn't enjoy herself. He muses that he's a loner because socializing takes too much effort for him. Sitting next to Izumi, Shohei thinks that if she genuinely liked him and it were a real date, he might have been able to enjoy himself a little. Izumi catches Shohei looking at her and asks what's wrong. He quickly looks away and she teasingly asks if he was thinking something dirty. Izumi laughs at Shohei's reaction and apologizes for teasing him. He remains silent, thinking he can't endure this kind of interaction for the rest of his life. Shohei suggests they set a 3-month deadline for their fake relationship, arguing that it's easier to work with a clear end date and he doesn't want to waste time on something with no return. Izumi agrees to pretend to be his girlfriend for 3 more months for Fuyumi's sake, after which they will become strangers. Relieved by the deadline, Shohei resolves to do his best. A flashback to 6 months ago shows Izumi in an office being chided for not contacting anyone before taking a rest. She is later seen sitting alone on a park bench. Sasaki-san finds Izumi on the bench and asks what's wrong, offering to listen to her problems. He appears to be sniffing, possibly from allergies or crying. At a party, Izumi thanks Sasaki-san for organizing his own farewell event. He tells her to have fun and that he wants to talk about that later. Sasaki-san asks Izumi if they can talk alone for 30 minutes. Before she can answer, Fuyumi Endo appears and greets them. Fuyumi greets Izumi, who is surprised to see her. Fuyumi apologizes for interrupting her conversation with Sasaki-san. Fuyumi thanks Izumi, claiming that Shohei seems to be doing much better lately because of her. Izumi looks confused and denies having anything to do with it. Fuyumi insists Izumi is the reason for Shohei's improvement, gushing about how he gave her a detailed synopsis of the movie they saw, which he hasn't done in a long time. Fuyumi warns Izumi to be careful around Sasaki-san, mentioning that he's been looking at her a lot and that people can be vulnerable to love when retiring. Izumi agrees to be careful, and Fuyumi pointedly reminds her that she is now dating Shohei. The scene cuts to Shohei at his computer at home. While gaming, Shohei receives a message notification from Izumi telling him she's at a drinking party. Shohei reads the rest of Izumi's message, where she mentions a guy is there but it's a company party, and she's telling him because he's her boyfriend, leaving him stunned. Shohei imagines what boyfriend-girlfriend communication entails and finds it too troublesome. He sends a polite reply, then gets back to his game. As he's about to resume gaming, Shohei receives another message from Izumi saying she might need his help if she gets into trouble, but telling him not to worry. He looks confused. Shohei stops his game and turns from his computer, looking thoughtful after receiving Izumi's cryptic message. At Sasaki-san's farewell party, the group toasts. Sasaki tells Izumi, who has looked sad all day, that they should have fun and drink. Another coworker wishes Sasaki luck, and Izumi does as well. Internally, Izumi thinks that while she's noticed him looking at her, she can't just ignore him as she is a secretary. Izumi stands to go to the bathroom with a coworker. Sasaki-san stops her to thank her for her help during his time at the company. Sasaki-san passionately declares his intent to succeed at his new job and reiterates that he needs to talk to her for 30 minutes after the party. Izumi looks uneasy but wishes him luck. After the party, a coworker offers to walk a wobbly Izumi home. Another points out that Sasaki-san is going to the same station. As they walk, Izumi stumbles and falls forward. Sasaki-san catches Izumi, preventing her from hitting the ground. He asks if she is okay as she stands up, looking uncomfortable with the situation. Sasaki-san follows Izumi out of the station, asking why she is walking so fast and calling out her name. Sasaki asks Izumi to slow down, remarking on how awkward their interaction was. Izumi internally laments hitting his hand away and wishes she could go home. Sasaki-san suggests they go into a cafe that is still open, but Izumi internally refuses and tells him she has a boyfriend. Izumi messages Shohei to explain she's pretending to have a boyfriend. She then shows Sasaki-san a message saying, "Okay," from Shohei, telling him her boyfriend is coming to pick her up. Sasaki-san is shocked that Izumi has a lover, claiming he's been watching her since she started at the company and has never heard about a boyfriend. Sasaki-san yells that it's impossible for her to have a boyfriend. Izumi is disturbed and wonders why he would have researched her private life. Sasaki-san asks what her boyfriend is like, as Izumi receives a message from Shohei asking about the situation. Izumi vaguely says her boyfriend is a normal guy. On the train, Sasaki-san continues to question Izumi about how she met her boyfriend. Izumi panics, trying to think of a believable story. Sasaki-san speculates that Izumi's boyfriend is a pimp, or that she is having an affair, saying that would be more believable than the truth. Izumi gets off at her stop, but Sasaki-san follows, insisting he can't leave her by herself. Sasaki-san follows Izumi off the platform, loudly expressing his worry about her boyfriend and causing onlookers to stare. Sasaki-san grabs Izumi's arm, telling her that he can be there for her instead of her boyfriend. Izumi realizes he's very drunk and thinks the situation is bad. Izumi tries to leave by saying her boyfriend is waiting for her, but worries her lie will be exposed. Sasaki-san continues to shout her name. Sasaki-san grabs Izumi's arm, pleading for her to talk. Izumi walks away, annoyed, and resolves to come up with a better plan next time. Izumi tries to think of a way out of the situation but can't come up with anything, so she decides to leave the station quickly. A man with glasses, seen from behind, stands before Izumi and says, "No one." The man is revealed to be Shohei, standing at the top of a staircase and looking down at Izumi and Sasaki-san. Sasaki-san is stunned to see Shohei, wondering if he is Izumi's real boyfriend. Shohei approaches them and tells Sasaki-san that he came to pick Izumi up because she was late, prompting a flustered apology from Sasaki-san. After Sasaki-san leaves, Shohei tells Izumi they should be safe now. Izumi thanks him for coming and seems happy that he did. Izumi thanks Shohei profusely for helping her. Shohei observes that she is bad at asking for help, yet she was able to ask him to go out with her for his mother's sake. Shohei concludes that his perceived image of her must be why he came to help, and he's glad he did the right thing. Izumi pats his head and praises him. As Shohei thanks her, Izumi suddenly bursts into tears, apologizing and saying it's nothing. Izumi explains that she is just relieved. A concerned Shohei offers to call her a taxi, worried she might be scared to walk home alone in her emotional state. Izumi calls Shohei a good boy and, wiping away her tears, asks if he would take her home instead. Izumi asks Shohei to lead the way and he agrees. They walk off together into the night. Shohei clocks into his convenience store job late at 10:25 p.m. He apologizes to his coworker and lies that he overslept. At home, Izumi wraps herself in a hooded blanket and sends a message to Shohei, thanking him for the day and calling him the perfect boyfriend. Shohei walks down the street, lamenting his broken gamepad. He sees an expensive shirt in a shop window and considers buying new clothes for his time with Asano-san. Tatyama surprises Shohei on the street, noting that he's seen him around a lot lately. Tatyama asks Shohei if he and his girlfriend would like to go glamping over the weekend. Shohei is confused by the term glamping. Tatyama explains that glamping is a simplified form of camping and that he needs 2 more people to avoid a cancellation fee after his other friends backed out. Tatyama pleads with Shohei, saying he's the only one who can help since others have already turned him down, and assumes he's free on the weekend. On the weekend, a cheerful Izumi celebrates the sunny weather. Shohei stands behind her, looking annoyed that she agreed to the glamping trip. At the station, Shohei formally thanks Asano-san for coming. She stops him, questioning his use of honorifics when they are about to meet his friend. Izumi sets a rule for the day. Every time Shohei adds san to her name, she gets to make a request. Just then, Tatyama and Ichino arrive. Tatyama and Ichino greet them, and Tatyama thanks them for coming. On the train, Tatyama says he is surprised to see Endo with a girlfriend, and Ichino adds that she always pictured him with a girl who wears glasses. Tatyama asks how they met, saying they don't seem to have the same vibe. Shohei hesitates, and Ichino tells Tatyama not to pry. Ichino explains that Tatyama's job as a real estate salesman makes him curious about other people's lives so he can better serve his clients. Tatyama recalls receiving a complaint for making assumptions about a female customer's family plans, explaining that's why he is now sensitive to other situations. Ichino praises Tatyama for being amazing, and he laughs. She then proudly announces that his company is Mitsumaru Estate. Shohei realizes that Mitsumaru is a major company that runs the bank and feels he misjudged Tatyama, who looks embarrassed by the praise. Shohei thinks that Ichino seems proud to have a boyfriend at a famous company but feels that such a world has nothing to do with him. After some shopping, Ichino tells Shohei that she and Izumi have been getting along and that Izumi is different than she expected. Ichino loudly tells a mortified Izumi that her shirt zipper got stuck because of her large chest, just as Tatyama returns from checking their luggage. Tatyama announces that they have everything and can head to the glamping venue, saving Izumi from her embarrassment. The group arrives at the site. Tatyama shows them their tent and grill. He opens a cooler box full of food, and Ichino gets excited about the large marshmallows. Tatyama begins to start the fire, telling the others to get drinks. Shohei feels useless and offers to help. While looking at a guide, Izumi sees that fireworks are allowed and asks Shohei to go shopping with her. Tatyama tells him to go ahead while he and Rika handle the fire. As they walk to the store, Shohei observes the other people at the site, feeling a sense of fellowship with the older men and thinking he doesn't feel out of place. Izumi points out that it's just the 2 of them now, leaving Shohei to wonder what she's trying to imply. Izumi tells Shohei there is one thing she wants to suggest. Izumi makes a pinky promise gesture and suggests they hold hands, leaving Shohei stunned. Shohei panics, worrying that his hands are sweaty, but feels that refusing would be rude to Izumi. Izumi explains that they need to act like a couple so Tatyama and the others won't discover their lie. Realizing she is right, Shohei reaches for her hand. In a short bonus comic, Izumi finds a cute cat on her day off, takes a photo, and sends it to Shohei. Izumi explains they need to act like lovers to avoid arousing Tatyama's suspicion. Shohei agrees and, surprised, reaches for her hand. Shohei looks nervous as he and Izumi stand facing each other in silence after agreeing to hold hands. Izumi smiles and suggests they just keep holding hands until they get to the convenience store. Shohei agrees, and they walk away hand in hand. Tatyama asks how Shohei and Izumi started dating, causing Shohei to panic internally about being questioned. Izumi says they met through an acquaintance, and Tatyama calls her a superhuman for hitting it off with Endo, which Endo finds insulting. Ichino speculates that women with bad past experiences choose safe men like Endo-kun. Ichino theorizes that Izumi must have been cheated on or experienced abuse, causing Shohei to imagine a dramatic, negative scenario. Izumi firmly denies ever having such an experience, and apologizes for getting carried away while Izumi changes the subject. Ichino asks Izumi what she likes about Shohei. She pauses before declaring that he's surprisingly dependable. When asked for an example of his reliability, Izumi says he picks up lost items. Shohei finds the whole ordeal of lying tiresome. Shohei notices a slug on Izumi's clothing and, in a panic, quietly tells her not to move. While Izumi panics about the slug's location, Shohei calmly removes it with a piece of tissue. Ichino and Tatyama are both surprised and impressed by Shohei's dependability. Tatyama's phone then rings and he excuses himself. Tatyama announces he has to leave for urgent business, and Ichino decides to leave as well to give the couple some space. Tatyama apologizes to Endo for the short notice and early departure, then waves goodbye to the remaining couple. Now alone, Shohei asks Izumi if she wants to light some fireworks they bought before heading home, and she enthusiastically agrees. As they light a sparkler, Izumi remarks that doing it alone makes you feel lonely and looks emotional. Izumi smiles while holding the sparkler and says it's been a few years since she last used one, as Shohei watches her. Izumi playfully reminds Shohei that he called her Izumi-san, which means it's time for his punishment as per their agreement. 10 minutes later, Izumi admits she can't think of a punishment and decides to save it for another time. Shohei confirms they'll wait until next time for the punishment game. Izumi thanks him for the invitation, saying it's been a while since she's been outdoors. Shohei tells Izumi she doesn't have to force gratitude, pointing out that she could have gone with a friend if she'd wanted to do fireworks. Izumi replies that she doesn't have any friends like that, making Shohei realize how little he actually knows about her. Izumi reminisces about having friends she could easily talk to, but says it's harder as an adult. Shohei doubts that someone like her has no friends. After cleaning up, Shohei says, "Okay," and watches Izumi as they stand near the empty glamping site at night. Izumi turns to Shohei with a smile and suggests they go home, and he agrees. An alarm clock showing 3,000 p.m. goes off, waking a tired-looking Shohei from his bed. Shohei finds his mother, Fuyumi, in his room. She has a fever and is taking the day off work, and asks if he wants anything from the store. Shohei returns with a bag of supplies for his sick mother, who apologizes to him as she sits weakly on her bed. A crying Fuyumi laments being a bad mother and wishes she had been stronger so she could have given Shohei a different life. Shohei stands in his room while his mother cries, wondering if she wanted him to be like Tatyama, but concluding it's impossible. 1 month into their fake relationship, Izumi asks Shohei if he thinks they're starting to look like a real couple, to which he bluntly replies, "Number." While carrying shopping bags for Izumi, Shohei refers to himself as a baggage handler. Izumi asks where he wants to go to buy tea. Izumi cheerfully declares she'll go to either of the stores she's considering, a decision which baffles Shohei. In a shop, Izumi points out a cute glass bird figurine in the window, which costs $39.80. Izumi teasingly compares the gray bird to Shohei, who looks annoyed and then says the bird is cuter than him, calling it Shohei number 2. Izumi mentions how happy she would be to receive the plain figurine as a gift for something like a 1-month anniversary. Izumi enthusiastically exclaims how so happy she would be to receive the figurine as a gift, putting immense pressure on Shohei. Izumi exits the store with her new purchase in a bag, thanking Shohei and promising to take good care of the figurine. Shohei internally reflects on Asano-san, thinking she is a cheerful and sociable woman, which is why she can be so sweet. Shohei contemplates the contradictions he's observed about Izumi. She has no friends and no boyfriend, and was being hassled at work. Izumi, on the phone, asks Shohei for dinner suggestions, then proposes they go to a diner she used to visit. They arrive at an izakaya known for its fried chicken, where Izumi asks Shohei if he wants to try their famous Kara Hajj Tower. A waiter brings a massive tower of fried chicken to their table, stunning Shohei, who tells Izumi to stop. Izumi looks worried as Shohei panics, asking if she really wanted the tower that badly, which she denies. Shohei claims he saw an acquaintance and asks if Asano-san knows the lively group that ordered the tower, but she doesn't. As Shohei and Izumi sit at their table, a woman with brown hair approaches from behind and taps his shoulder, causing Izumi to look up in surprise. The woman, accompanied by a friend, looks down at a surprised Izumi and says, "Asano?" The woman smiles strangely, and Shohei wonders about her reaction. The brown-haired woman, arms crossed, tells Izumi and Shohei that their presence is annoying, shocking Shohei. Shohei freezes, unsure how to react, while the woman's friend calls her Kana and tells her she's being scary. Izumi explains to Shohei that 5 years ago, a friend of hers ran away before their professional music debut after being approached by a record label. Kana tells Izumi she's a wimp, but that she doesn't resent her for running away. However, she asks her not to come to the venue anymore. Shohei feels the situation is difficult and, seeing Izumi's discomfort, wonders if it's right for him to interfere between old friends. The other woman tries to calm Kana down, who continues to pressure Asano-san for an answer. Izumi agrees not to come to the store anymore, and Kana smugly says it's a good thing she understands. Shohei watches as Izumi tries to laugh off the confrontation, deciding it's best not to interfere. Shohei reflects that interactions between friends can be difficult and harsh, deciding to just wait for the situation to pass like a typhoon. Shohei decides that with women in bad moods, it's best not to touch them, a lesson he's even learned from his own mother. Shohei recalls that there were times when he definitely should not have touched his mother. A flashback shows a young Shohei being confronted by his mother over a diary entry about his parents fighting loudly. In the flashback, his mother asks why he wrote about their fighting, and he replies that it was because it happened. His mother scolds him, asking if he wants his teacher to think he's from a pitiful family and feel sorry for him. In the flashback, young Shohei's father angrily confronts him after he insists that his parents' fighting really happened. Young Shohei thinks to himself that he is just doing his job and doesn't deserve to be written about in a way that will make his teacher misunderstand. A young Shohei shouts that his family's problems shouldn't be written about, that he doesn't understand why it's so important, and that he can't do it anymore. Shohei reflects that at that time, his mother was desperate for someone to recognize that she was raising her child well. Back in the present, Shohei praises Kana for her professional debut, saying it's amazing and that he respects her for it. Shohei tells Kana that she doesn't need to worry about being seen with an ordinary person, and she replies that a respectable person like her has no need to worry. Kana tells Izumi no one will recognize her if she gets involved with ordinary people, then points to Shohei and asks if he is her guy, to which Izumi says yes. Kana smugly tells Shohei, "Come on," and criticizes his seriousness, saying she almost fell asleep while he was talking. Izumi angrily confronts Kana, who looks like she's about to cry, whilst confused Shohei watches them. Izumi stands protectively in front of Shohei's table as Kana and her friend walk away, saying she's fine. Shohei stands up and tells Kana to stop as she and her friend are walking away. Shohei surprises Izumi by grabbing her arm and telling her to come with him. Izumi refuses to leave, defiantly telling Shohei that she won't allow Kana to approach him like that. Kana's friend urges her to leave, saying they are all debutantes and that causing trouble will affect their image. Kana yells, "Bye!" and leaves with her friend, abandoning the awkward situation with Shohei and Izumi. After a moment of silence, Shohei looks at Izumi and says her name. A waiter interrupts Shohei, asking him to order soon, and Izumi suggests they just order for now. A flashback shows Izumi holding Shohei's hand under the table, thanking him for defending her and calling him cool and amazing. Shohei remembers his father telling him that his mother loves him and scolds him for his own good, as his younger self cries. Shohei abruptly slaps Izumi's hand off the table, shocking her. Shohei looks down at his own hand in surprise after his sudden outburst, while a menu lies on the table. As Izumi goes to the toilet, Shohei sits alone at the table, realizing he knows what's going on. Shohei and Izumi walk down a street at night, passing a payphone. As he walks, Shohei wonders what is wrong with him, questioning why he talked when he should have been quiet and slapped Asano-san's hand. Shohei recalls Izumi telling him that he had never swatted her hand away like that before. Izumi asks Shohei if he reacted that way because he was sulking that she begged for the Shohei No. 2 figurine. Shohei explains that his mother went through a period of mental instability 10 years ago which affected him, and now he is in a really bad mood. Shohei apologizes profusely to Izumi, calling himself a jerk, a loner, and a creep for making her feel unhappy. Izumi starts crying, and Shohei, surprised, asks her why. A crying Izumi tells Shohei that she felt pushed away, and that she wants to understand him because dating is about more than just giving presents. Shohei asks Izumi what was so hard for her that she wants him to know as they stand in front of a barbed wire fence. Shohei explains that he used to get tangled up with a certain person, and that seeing Asano-san today reminded him of that time. A smiling Izumi suggests that if they see each other again, they can hold hands then, confusing Shohei. Izumi gets close to Shohei, reminding him that they are in a pretend relationship and saying she'd have trouble if he touched her too casually. Shohei thinks about how his mother pushed him around that summer and how he's being pushed around by this woman now, calling it ridiculous. In a messy room, Kana sits on her bed with a guitar, looking serious. Kana looks at a photo of her and Izumi on her phone, reminiscing about when Izumi thanked her and they performed together. Kana angrily wonders why that guy is dating Asano, remembering his words about ordinary people. Shohei is surprised to get a phone call from Izumi, which he notes is unusual for her. A frantic Izumi tells Shohei over the phone that he has collapsed. Shohei realizes someone collapsed at Asano-san's house and that she couldn't get help because it was a holiday. Izumi asks Shohei to come, and he agrees. His mother overhears and gets excited that he's going to see Izumi-san. Shohei grabs his keys and rushes out of the house, telling his mom he'll eat out. Shohei helps Izumi assemble a bookcase with a screwdriver while she cheers him on. Shohei realizes there was no sick person and that Izumi just needed help with furniture. She thanks him for saving her. Izumi offers to buy Shohei dinner, but he refuses, thinking it would be unnatural to leave his girlfriend's house right after arriving. Izumi says they are out of curry-roo and need to go to the convenience store, asking Shohei to join her. Shohei becomes flustered, questioning if it's okay for him to go to Asano-san's local convenience store with her. Shohei imagines himself working as a clerk at Asano-san's local convenience store. Imaginary Shohei thinks he isn't good at remembering customers, but would remember Asano-san because she stands out. He imagines that while he doesn't talk to her, her presence brightens the store until she comes in with a man one day. Shohei imagines his coworkers assuming the man is Asano-san's boyfriend and that they are sexually active. The fantasy ends with the imaginary Shohei wishing death on all happy couples. As the real Shohei sits at home, Shohei tells Izumi he doesn't want to be resented and that he was worried about showing up at her home unannounced. Izumi shows Shohei her bedroom, which contains a closet, a vanity with makeup, and a large fluffy stuffed animal. Shohei panics, wondering what kind of man stays in her room and whether he should choose to be resented or be suspicious. Shohei stands nervously in the convenience store as Izumi shops and pays at the counter. Back at Izumi's apartment, she offers to make curry and tells a tired Shohei he can sit down. Shohei waits anxiously by a closed door, wanting to go home and sleep when he notices a guitar case nearby. Izumi serves dinner, but when she asks Shohei what's wrong, he looks at her with a dark expression. Izumi smiles about other families making their own dressing as Shohei tastes her curry and admits to himself that it's good. Izumi offers to wash the dishes, but Shohei is distracted by her guitar case and just says the word guitar. Izumi admits it's pathetic that she still has the guitar even though she doesn't play it, but she can't throw it away because of the memories. Shohei tells Izumi he can't understand keeping something useless, especially after remembering how Kana acted towards her. Shohei questions if the guitar is still an important memory after Kana's harsh behavior, saying he wouldn't want to keep it. Izumi sits on the counter and tells Shohei to come over, flustering him with the close proximity as he thinks she wants him to sit next to her. Izumi gets close to the seated Shohei, leaning over him and remarking that he seriously never changes. Shohei blushes as he sits next to Izumi at her computer, thinking to himself, "Come on." As Shohei looks down at Izumi's bosom, he thinks to himself that the situation is unavoidable. She calls his name as he makes a strange noise. Izumi points to the computer screen, telling Shohei to look at a video she has pulled up. Izumi shows Shohei a video of a performance her band did during a university festival. In the video, Kana introduces the drummer Ayako, while in the present, Izumi fondly recalls that her time playing music was lovely. The video shows Kana introducing Izumi on guitar as Shohei watches the screen intently. Izumi tells Shohei she knows he probably won't like Kana, but she hopes showing him the video would help him understand. The video shows Kana and Izumi performing passionately together on stage as Shohei watches and Izumi gets emotional. The video ends, and Izumi tells Shohei she made many mistakes, but he replies that he didn't notice. Izumi says the band only existed because of Kana, as Shohei reflects on how amazing it is to see so many people gathered to have fun at a live concert. Izumi smiles, reminiscing about how much she enjoyed playing music with her bandmates in those days. Shohei returns home and tells his surprised mother that he has already eaten and is going to bed. At his computer, Shohei searches for Kana's band, Nagari, recalling Izumi's fond memories of their time together. Shohei finds Kana's social media and theorizes that she and Asano-san could reconnect, but concludes that Asano-san won't initiate it. Shohei concludes that Asano-san won't contact Kana because it would be awkward and is later seen standing outside the central library. Shohei spends time at the library, browsing books and eventually falling asleep at a desk. While walking, Shohei overhears other people laughing and pulls up his hood, looking downcast. Shohei reflects on how he started avoiding people after he stopped going to school, but still remembers his old classmates. Shohei wonders if he and Asano-san are similar in wanting to avoid people from their past, then looks up tickets for Kana's band's live show. Shohei stands nervously outside the V-Beat's live house, filled with the desire to go home. Shohei gives himself a pep talk, reminding himself that he needs to resolve his regrets regarding Asano-san before their fake relationship ends in 2 months. In a bonus comic, Shohei tells Asano-san about his fight with Kana at a bar, which prompts a surprised Asano to say she can't ignore a guest who came to see them. Shohei resolves to do reconnaissance at the concert, so that Asano-san can one day do what she loves again, even after they part ways. Shohei feels overwhelmed by the concert-going crowd, thinking that his introversion makes it hard for him to even attend a concert without preparation. Shohei orders a drink at the bar, where a girl with blonde pigtails from Kana's band gives him a letter from Kana. While drinking his tea, Shohei realizes the small venue means he'll be close to the stage and wonders if Kana will be able to see him. Shohei stands in the audience and thinks that even if Kana sees him, she won't start a fight with an audience member as her band, Nagari, takes the stage. The band's lead singer greets the crowd while Kana looks down from the stage with a serious expression. Shohei watches a female bassist play, looking confused. Shohei observes that Kana can perform well, but thinks that she was more energetic during the school festival performance with Izumi. After the show, Shohei prepares to leave but is stopped by a staff member who says one of the performers asked to see him. The staff member asks Shohei to wait, and he sits at a table looking confused. Shohei waits anxiously, wondering why he's been held back and worrying that he's done something wrong. Kana appears and stands before Shohei, greeting him with a simple, "Hey." Kana tells Shohei she doesn't like him but asks if he's the same, leaving him to wonder why she's always so hostile. In a bonus comic, Izumi finds a cute duck figurine while unpacking, but her expression sours when she sees a card that came with it. Kana repeats her statement that she doesn't like Shohei but asks if he feels the same way, while he looks on in stunned silence. Shohei finally snaps, yelling at Kana about her rude greetings. She dismisses his outburst, telling him he can leave after answering her question. Kana asks Shohei for his opinion on her performance, and he gives a non-committal answer, which annoys her. Kana explains that she wanted his honest, harsh criticism because she assumes he dislikes her. Shohei replies that the Kana in the old video was more energetic. Shohei clarifies that he was comparing her performance to the school festival video, explaining that she seemed more connected to her bandmates back then, which surprises Kana. Shohei concludes his critique by saying she now performs as if she's soloing, and Kana simply thanks him for his honesty. Shohei gets annoyed at Kana's rudeness after he answered her question. She apologizes and tells him to go home, but he refuses to leave on bad terms. As Kana turns to leave, Shohei tells her to wait and suggests she should ask Asano-san for her opinion on her songs instead. Shohei tells Kana to contact Asano-san because she knows more about music, but they are interrupted by the blonde pigtails band member asking to go home. Kana's bandmates gather around her, reminding her of their plans and increasing Shohei's feeling of being out of place. As a staff member suggests they take their party outside, one of Kana's bandmates proposes they all go drinking, and Kana invites Shohei to join them for drinks, much to his surprise. Shohei feels he can't possibly mingle with a band of artists and tries to refuse the invitation to go drinking with them. Shohei tries to run away from the drinking invitation, but Kana challenges him. He reluctantly agrees to be her guest. As the group walks down the street, Shohei feels overwhelmed and resolves to find a chance to talk to Kana about Asano-san. Another member of Kana's band approaches Shohei and asks if he is Kana's boyfriend, leaving him confused. Kana angrily steps on her bandmate's foot and then confronts her, asking if she actually knows Shohei as they stand outside a shop. Kana explains that as idols, they have to maintain the illusion that their fans are their boyfriends, so jokes about real boyfriends could cause trouble. The blonde bandmate apologizes for her awkward joke, explaining she gets nervous around strangers. Shohei silently notes that Kana seems to be a hardworking person. The blonde bandmate continues to apologize for being corny. Another member notes that Kana's friend's boyfriend isn't there, and the blonde member blames Shohei for her tasteless joke. The blonde band member asks Shohei why his girlfriend isn't with him, speculating that he's playing hooky or got dumped by the big-titted girl. Shohei thinks to himself that he came alone to scout out the situation because he believes Kana and Asano-san would just end up fighting if they met again. The blonde band member says it feels like Shohei is playing hooky. Shohei thinks that telling Asano-san he was coming would have worried her, and her seeing him like this would be a mess. Shohei yells that he came because he didn't want to make Asano-san cry, saying he can handle rude comments but won't drag her into the matter. Crying, Shohei laments that he has failed hard, insisting that he didn't get dumped and isn't playing hooky. Shohei loudly declares that he's there because he has a girlfriend, stunning Kana and her bandmates into silence. Mortified, Shohei thinks that announcing he has a girlfriend is incredibly embarrassing, especially since it's a lie. A hand reaches out toward him. One of Kana's bandmates admits she's out of the loop and asks for an explanation. Kana agrees to tell her everything. Kana promises to explain everything, including why Shohei is there and the reason for her fight with Asano. The bandmate is eager to hear it all. At a restaurant, Kana begins to explain that 5 years ago, she and Asano were in a 4-person band where she was the vocalist and bassist, and Asano was the guitarist. Kana continues her story, explaining that a small indie label contacted them in their 3rd year of college, but only she and Asano were invited to join. A flashback to 5 years ago shows Kana and Asano sitting in a room with several guitars, looking at something on a laptop. In the flashback, Asano asks Kana if she likes the idol-style clothes they have to wear for their debut. Kana admits she doesn't. Asano explains that the label wants to promote them as idols who can play instruments, and confirms that the other 2 band members were not invited. As Kana expresses her unease, Asano suggests it would be better for Kana to find a new partner, saying she doesn't want to debut with this feeling. Asano explains that she only enjoys playing with all 4 of them together, but Kana coldly retorts that the other 2's performances are shitty, and that males only like them for their looks. A crying Asano says all she wanted was for the 4 of them to debut together, but Kana angrily tells her that she's the worst. Kana accuses Asano of being a goody two-shoes and says that by trying to please everyone, she made a fool of her as well. Kana looks down at a shocked Asano and asks if she's trying to play the victim, once again calling her the worst. Back in the present, Kana tells Shohei that was their final conversation and asks if she now has the right to be malicious toward Asano. Shohei reflects on Asano's caring nature, realizing she worries about everyone, from his mother to her bandmates, and his kindness has caused her problems. Shohei smiles, thinking Asano never changes, which prompts Kana to call him gross. He explains he came because he was curious about why they fought. One of Kana's bandmates reflects that chasing a dream in a band for 5 years doesn't guarantee happiness, and that neither Kana nor Asano were entirely right or wrong. At the train station, Shohei reflects that it makes sense the two never spoke again, as there was no easy solution or person to blame for their falling out. On the platform, Shohei asks Kana if she's crying. She denies it, claiming it was a hiccup, but gets flustered when he persists. Shohei apologizes, explaining that he was so focused on getting her to reconcile with Asano-san that he didn't consider her own feelings about the painful memory. Shohei buys a drink from a vending machine on the train and offers it to Kana, telling her he just bought it. Kana looks at the drink for a moment as the train arrives, then tells Shohei she doesn't need it and that he should drink it himself. As she boards the train, Kana tells Shohei to let Asano know they'll never see eye to eye, but she's welcome to come to a show as a fan if she wants. Shohei feels that Kana's words are a step in the right direction and that Asano can now see her as a fan. He sits at his computer ready to share the news. At home, Shohei writes a message to Asano explaining the situation with Kana's live show, but is interrupted by a phone call. Izumi answers the phone, surprised to hear from Shohei on a workday. He asks if her call is urgent. Izumi complains about Shohei going to a party without her, saying it's unfair and calls for a punishment game. Izumi tells Shohei that he has to accompany her to Kana's live show because she'll be too nervous to go alone. He agrees. At his convenience store job, Shohei is reminded by his manager that piercings are forbidden. He makes a mental note to also get a haircut at his usual 1,000-yen salon. While getting a haircut, the barber asks Shohei if he has a new girlfriend, mentioning he saw him walking with a woman. Shohei is embarrassed to have been seen. The barber asks Shohei if he has plans for the upcoming Tanabata Festival. Shohei says no, but imagines his mother and Izumi suggesting they all go together. A few days later, Izumi happily announces the start of the Tanabata Festival, dressed in a yukata. Shohei, also in a yukata, looks on with less excitement. Izumi apologizes for making Shohei wear a yukata, explaining it was a cheaper rental deal for a set. Shohei complains that getting dressed was tedious. Izumi compliments Shohei, telling him he looks cool. A flustered Shohei knows he should return the compliment but struggles to find the words. Unable to respond quickly because he's never complimented a girl before, Shohei stands silently until Izumi asks if he thinks her yukata is cute. After Shohei says yes, Izumi asks where they should go first. He feels shy and reflects on how little he knew about her when they first met. Shohei muses that he initially accepted Izumi's strange behavior because he's used to his mother manipulating him, but now he knows that's not the whole story. Shohei realizes that Izumi's tendency to care for everyone has cost her dearly, so he feels he should indulge her to make her happy, even if it's just wearing a yukata. As Shohei wishes he could ease her worries, he sees Izumi chugging a drink and advises her to be more careful. At the festival, Izumi is ready to write a wish on a tanzaku strip. She peeks at Shohei's and is amused to see he wished for family safety, good health. Izumi shows Shohei her tanzaku, which reads, "I hope Shohei will get his own cell phone, much to his annoyance." Izumi complains that it's inconvenient not being able to reach him, but Shohei insists he doesn't need a phone since no one ever contacts him. Shohei says he'd have no use for a phone after their arrangement ends in a month anyway. Izumi looks down, reminded of their impending separation. Izumi is saddened by the reminder that they only have 1 month left together. She then rallies, suggesting they enjoy their remaining time to the fullest. As they walk through the crowded festival, they decide to focus on making good memories for each other in the time they have left. Walking through the festival crowd, a tipsy Izumi asks Shohei to walk a little closer to her. Izumi leans her head on Shohei's shoulder and, looking up with a blush, asks if she's drunk, then confirms that she is. They sit in the quiet park at night. As they sit on a park bench, Izumi slowly leans her head toward Shohei, who watches her intently. A sleepy Izumi calls Shohei's name and rests her head on his shoulder, surprising him. Izumi falls asleep with her head in Shohei's lap, causing him to panic internally. Shohei looks down with a shocked expression as Izumi sleeps soundly on his lap. Shohei panics as Izumi sleeps on his lap, reminding himself that it's just pretend and he can't let his guard down. Thinking it's fine since she's asleep, Shohei moves to touch Izumi's hair, finding the sensation ticklish and telling her to stay still. Shohei gently strokes Izumi's hair as she sleeps on the bench, then gasps in surprise at his own actions. As he looks at the sleeping Izumi, Shohei thinks to himself that her hair is incredibly smooth. Shohei recalls Izumi's earlier desire to have fun together and reflects that he only stroked her hair because she seemed sleepy, telling himself she wouldn't care. Shohei sits on the park bench and continues to watch over Izumi as she sleeps peacefully in his lap. Looking closer, Shohei is surprised to see tears falling from Izumi's closed eyes as she sleeps. A full-page illustration shows the starry night sky visible through the silhouettes of trees. Text boxes reveal Shohei's internal monologue, where he concludes that he couldn't do anything for her, likely due to his own lack of confidence. The scene shifts to a later day, showing a piece of meat being grilled at a yakiniku restaurant. Tatyama sits across from Shohei at the yakiniku restaurant and cheerfully remarks that summer will be arriving soon. Shohei reflects that he never expected to be eating with Tatyama again, recalling the day he received an unexpected phone call inviting him out. Tatyama expresses his gratitude that Endo was free on a weekday and says he hopes they can eat together regularly again, which surprises Shohei. Tatyama fondly remembers how Shohei's mom would often make pancakes for them when he visited Shohei's house as a kid. A flashback shows a younger Shohei playing video games with friends as his mother brings them snacks, telling them it's nothing fancy. Tatyama calls Shohei's mother a good person, but Shohei thinks back to how she would get tired and ask if he thought she was his maid. Tatyama asks Shohei if his parents got divorced, catching him off guard before he somberly confirms that they did. Expressing his sympathy, Tatyama asks how Shohei's mother is doing now. Shohei replies that she seems to be fine. Shohei internally scolds Tatyama for bringing up heavy topics, thinking that he was the one who suffered the three-piece combo of misfortune, divorce, dropping out, and becoming a shut-in. Shohei looks down sadly, thinking that an outgoing person like Tatyama could never understand the feelings of a poor, trashy dropout like himself. After Shohei complains about the heavy conversation, Tatyama admits that there was another reason he invited him out to eat. Tatyama asks Shohei if he's going to the sea, and a flashback shows Rika and Izumi discussing their plans to go glamping and to the sea together. Tatyama enthusiastically insists that Shohei must come, saying it won't be as fun without him, leaving Shohei looking confused. Back in the restaurant, Shohei questions why he's being invited along with Izumi and his friend, asking Tatyama if they were even friends to begin with. Tatyama declares that of course they're friends, since they went to the same middle school and have now eaten together again, leaving Shohei even more baffled. A few days later, Shohei and Izumi stand outside a department store, and Izumi looks at him with a serious expression. Izumi tells Shohei that she has a request to make, which causes him to react with nervous anticipation. Izumi asks Shohei to help her choose a swimsuit, explaining that she hasn't worn one since high school and is self-conscious, prompting him to offer her his support. Izumi warns Shohei that if he says anything other than cute, she'll get angry, explaining her fear of wearing a weird swimsuit and asking him to accompany her. After looking through the swimwear section, Izumi picks out a swimsuit and heads to the changing room, telling Shohei to wait for her. Shohei waits anxiously on a bench outside the changing room, sweating as he imagines Izumi's silhouette. Feeling very uncomfortable, Shohei sits on the bench until Izumi calls his name from the changing room and announces she is coming out. Izumi emerges from the changing room wearing a white one-piece swimsuit and asks for his opinion. A flustered Shohei stammers that it's cute. Izumi turns around to show Shohei the open back of the swimsuit, asking if he genuinely thinks it's cute, which makes him even more flustered. Overwhelmed, Shohei covers his face and repeats that it's cute. Izumi says she has another one to try on and goes back into the changing room. Izumi comes out wearing a bikini and asks for Shohei's opinion, mentioning she's concerned about her stomach. He automatically confirms that it's cute. Noticing Shohei's more genuine reaction to the bikini, Izumi looks pleased and decides to buy that one. Shohei thinks to himself that Izumi in a bikini reminds him of a gravure model, then remembers that Tatyama will also be at the beach. Shohei tells Izumi he thinks the one-piece swimsuit was better, causing her to worry that her stomach is sticking out. Shohei clarifies that since she hasn't worn a swimsuit in a long time, something less revealing might be better. Izumi agrees and decides to buy the one-piece instead. Relieved, Shohei watches Izumi return to the changing room, thinking to himself that he doesn't want other people to see her in the bikini. Shohei reflects that he's having strange thoughts again. Later that night at home, his mother finds him in the bathroom looking for something. Shohei's mother asks what he's looking for, and he says sunscreen. She realizes he's going to the beach and excitedly asks if it's with Izumi-san. Shohei tells his mother that his friend Tatyama is also coming, explaining that they knew each other in elementary school. His mother gets emotional, remembering the boy. Wanzao no nan, Shohei's mother cries tears of joy, saying she never thought he would reconnect with his childhood friends and that he has changed for the better since Izumi started visiting. On the day of the beach trip, Shohei plays rock, paper, scissors with Tatyama and two other young men in a parking lot, and loses immediately. Tatyama explains that the loser has to drive, but Shohei reveals he doesn't have a license, forcing them to redo the game. The two other men are revealed to be Tatyama's juniors, whom he invited on a whim. Shohei realizes this on the morning of the trip, but can't say anything. In the car, Tatyama is driving after losing a rematch, with Ichino in the passenger seat. Shohei and Izumi are sitting together in the back. One of Tatyama's juniors, who is filming for his YouTube channel, welcomes his viewers to their beach trip, surprising Shohei. Shohei asks the junior if he and his girlfriend will be in the video. The junior, whose channel name is Size Litter, says he can edit them out. Shohei observes Izumi's uncomfortable expression, realizing she is too polite to refuse being filmed even though it's making her flustered. Seeing Izumi's discomfort, Shohei speaks up and asks the junior to please stop recording in the car because some people don't like it. The junior stubbornly refuses to stop recording, asking Shohei if he thinks he's a pervert. Shohei realizes he chose his words poorly and has made things worse. Tatyama diffuses the situation by suggesting a compromise. The junior can film, but he has to announce it first. Shohei is relieved that Tatyama covered for him. At the beach, Tatyama compliments Ichino on her swimsuit. She replies that it's not as cute as Izumi-san's. As the group stands on the sand, Ichino suggests heading to the food stalls, but then she notices Shohei squatting down on the ground. Izumi rushes over to a hunched-over Shohei, asking what's wrong. He claims he's just feeling carsick and tells her to go on ahead. As Izumi watches with concern, the rest of the group invites her to join them at the food stalls, leaving Shohei to rest. Shohei tells the group to go ahead. Once they are gone, he collapses onto a beach mat, spread-eagled and exhausted. Shohei lies on a beach mat, watching Izumi, Tatyama, and Ichinose walk by as other people play volleyball. Shohei thinks that faking car sickness was a lie and that he's just too tired for the mission of having fun with new people, but believes Asano-san will enjoy herself with the others. In a dream, Izumi leans over Shohei, telling him to wake up and go swimming with her since everyone else has already gone, and she takes his hand. In Shohei's dream, Izumi says it's just the two of them now and starts to unzip her hoodie, at which point he realizes he's dreaming. Lying on the beach mat, Shohei berates himself for being weak and trashy for having a dream about Asano-san that was just his own wish. Shohei wakes up to find Izumi leaning over him, checking if he has a fever and asking if he's pushing himself by working night shifts, which he denies. Shohei thinks his energy is drained from interacting with a legendary creature, as Izumi thanks him for stopping the YouTuber earlier, admitting she's bad at turning people down. Shohei and Izumi sit on the beach mat in silence until he awkwardly asks if she wants to go swimming, which makes her laugh. Izumi suggests they go swimming together and begins to unzip her hoodie, saying they won't have to worry about anyone else if it's just the two of them. Izumi struggles to inflate a large, fruit-themed beach float, complaining that it's too big and won't inflate no matter how much she blows. Izumi asks Shohei to inflate the float, but he hesitates, pointing out that her mouth was just on the valve. Shohei and Izumi are in the water, and he says that thankfully they were able to borrow an air pump for free as she looks at him with a blushing smile. Izumi relaxes on the float in the water, saying how good it feels, and then invites Shohei to come sit next to her. Shohei declines Izumi's offer, saying he's swimming and starts to swim away, prompting her to warn him not to go out too deep. Shohei floats peacefully on his back in the ocean, and the view pans up to show seagulls flying in the sky. As Shohei floats on his back, Izumi paddles over on the float and playfully pokes him in the cheek. Izumi smiles down at a sputtering Shohei from her float and apologizes for suddenly poking him. As they walk on the beach, Shohei recalls Izumi looking sad earlier. Shohei remembers Izumi saying earlier that it would have been fine for him to use his mouth to inflate the float. A full-page illustration shows Izumi in her bikini as Shohei realizes the implication of what she said earlier. Shohei pictures Izumi putting the float's inflation valve to her lips, causing him to blush intensely. Shohei and Izumi sit on their float near some rocks on the beach. She calls his name, and he answers nervously. A full-page illustration shows Izumi sitting on the float, looking at Shohei with a serious expression. Izumi thanks Shohei again for helping her pick out her swimsuit and asks him to call it cute one more time, which he does. Feeling that Shohei cheered her up after he was avoiding her, Izumi suggests they head back. He offers to rinse the float first. Shohei tells Izumi to go on ahead, assuring her that he's not tired or avoiding her, and she agrees to leave the float with him. A full-page illustration shows Shohei squatting by the shore to rinse the float, looking emotionally strained as he pushes up his glasses. Back under their parasol, Ichinose compliments Izumi's float, and Izumi offers to let her use it, while Shohei sits nearby. Shohei thinks that while he's glad to be back with the group, being alone with a girl in a swimsuit is torture. One of Tatyama's juniors then asks to speak with him. The junior apologizes for his friend's behavior in the car, explaining that they only just found out the trip was originally only for the 4 seniors. Shohei thinks the junior should apologize to Tatyama, but the junior explains he felt he needed to talk to Shohei directly. The junior worries they are seen as dampers on the mood and feels he needs to be careful around Tatyama's friend, but Shohei thinks he doesn't want to be fussed over by someone younger. The junior suggests they take a commemorative photo later at a haunted spot they plan to visit, which shocks Shohei. At night, the group stands at the Grudge Bridge, where one of the juniors explains its haunted legends, including the rumor that something will pull your hand if you look over the side. The YouTuber junior explains they are going to film a video and asks the seniors to go first to set up a scare, hoping to interview a genuinely frightened person. Ichinose claims she isn't affected by scary videos, so she suggests only the YouTuber should go. He then asks Endo-senpai to participate by just recording his voice, but Shohei refuses. Shohei declines to get involved, but is surprised when Izumi seems genuinely interested in the haunted spot stories she's seen online. Izumi enthusiastically agrees to go onto the bridge first, and as she and Shohei walk off, the others cheer them on. Shohei holds a flashlight as he stands on the dark, empty bridge at night. Shohei finds the bridge more atmospheric than expected and, looking at a nervous Izumi, wonders if she's really enjoying herself. Izumi screams, claiming she heard a groaning sound. Shohei suggests it might be a wild dog and that they should move on quickly. As they walk, Shohei calmly explains the concept of mass hysteria, where psychological phenomena cause people in groups to perceive things that aren't there. Izumi notes that Shohei doesn't seem scared at all as they reach the middle of the bridge, where she points out the spot where a ghost is rumored to pull your hand. Shohei looks over the railing but says that, naturally, nothing is happening. Izumi then calls his name. Izumi explains she's not scared because he's not scared, then starts listing real-world dangers like wild dogs and falling, frustratingly telling him it's about the paranormal, not physics. Meanwhile, the rest of the group waits, and Ichino tries to see them with binoculars, while Tatyama tells the junior not to point the camera at Endo-senpai. Tatyama and the junior agree that Endo was scary that morning, with Tatyama calling him a good person but with an intense gaze, as Ichino gives up trying to see them. Ichino tells Tatyama she wants to see them because they're funny, recalling an incident from that morning in the parking lot. Ichino remembers seeing a piece of lint on Izumi's clothes, which Endo pointed out to her. Ichino recalls suggesting that Endo should remove the lint for Izumi since they're dating, which made Izumi laugh and call Shohei considerate. Ichino fondly remembers the moment, and Tatyama says watching them makes him feel nostalgic, then reassures Rika that he still cherishes her. Ichinose and Tatyama agree that watching the awkward but funny couple makes them smile and that they enjoy it. Having crossed the bridge, Izumi gets scared by a person walking on the other side of the road and asks Shohei to walk on the roadside on the way back. Shohei realizes this means Izumi will have to walk next to the haunted railing and asks if she isn't scared, which seems to surprise her. As they stand hesitantly, Shohei looks from Izumi's nervous face down to her hand. Izumi suggests that maybe she wouldn't be scared if he held her hand and holds her hand out to him. He agrees. In her apartment, Izumi composes a message to Shohei, apologizing for being a burden at the beach. Izumi continues her message, writing that she tried to get closer by making him call her cute, but wonders if it was bothersome, before typing, "It's almost time." The unsent message reveals her thoughts that their 3 months are almost over, and her wish that Shohei might use it as a chance to discuss their future. Izumi calls herself an idiot for the gloomy message and decides it won't change anything, so she discards it and stands in her room, feeling helpless. With their 3-month agreement nearing its end, Shohei searches online for a nice restaurant to have a final meal with Izumi. Tatyama tells Shohei to take good care of Izumi-san, mentioning that she is a nice person and was worried about him getting carsick. A brief flashback shows the juniors interviewing Izumi and Ichino on the bridge, while Shohei walks away alone. In the present, Izumi smiles to herself. Tatyama passionately tells Shohei that he'll never find someone like Izumi again, but Shohei internally reminds himself that their relationship is ending soon. Shohei asks Tatyama to recommend a good restaurant to treat Asano-san, and Tatyama enthusiastically agrees to help. Looking up Tatyama's recommendations at home, Shohei is shocked by the extremely high prices, with dinner budgets ranging from 15,000 to 50,000 yen. Frustrated by the price difference, Shohei decides to find a more reasonably priced restaurant himself, telling himself this is the last time. While browsing in a bookstore, Shohei finds an art exhibition guidebook but hesitates to buy it for 800 yen since he'll only use it once. A young woman with dark hair, his coworker from the convenience store, surprises Shohei by asking if he is going to buy the book. The coworker asks Shohei to go to an impressionist exhibition with her, but he declines, saying he's not very interested in paintings. In his imagination, Shohei overhears his manager talking about the new colleague being a university student and assumes she is smarter than him. Shohei's imagination continues with his manager and the colleague mocking his lack of knowledge about impressionist artists, calling it common knowledge. Snapping out of his daydream, Shohei declines his colleague's invitation. She looks disappointed as their manager watches. The manager tells the new colleague that Endo always acts that way, which seems to relieve her, as she thought he disliked her. Shohei and Izumi walk down a corridor in front of what appears to be a museum or large public building. As they walk, Izumi confesses that for the past 3 months, she has been secretly reporting all of his kind actions to his mother at her request. Izumi lists the things she told his mother about, like him intervening with Kana and helping her pick a swimsuit, which make his mother praise him. Izumi admits she was too embarrassed to tell his mother about them holding hands, which makes Shohei question her sense of what is embarrassing. Shohei teases Izumi about blushing, causing her to get flustered and call him a dummy. Izumi scolds Shohei for forcing her to say things she's hesitant about. He apologizes, noting that it has been 3 months. As they watch a leaf fall from a tree, Izumi remarks on how quickly the time has passed, and Shohei agrees. At a restaurant, Izumi sips a glass of red wine and exclaims how delicious it is. Izumi looks at Shohei fondly as he eats. He tells her he's glad she's enjoying herself. Outside the restaurant, Shohei insists on paying as a way to repay her for the last 3 months and thanks her for everything. Shohei reflects on how his mother used to be deeply worried about him but has seemed much more cheerful for the past 3 months. Shohei tells Izumi he has told his mother not to bother her anymore and asks her to take care of herself, saying his family owes her a lot. Izumi looks at Shohei seriously and asks if he remembers something, but he doesn't know what she's referring to. Izumi reminds Shohei of the punishment game, explaining that when she first met him, she imagined he was a terribly lonely and sad person. Shohei jokes that he might just be a pitiful loser, but Izumi goes quiet, making him feel awkward. Izumi tells Shohei that if he were really just a pitiful person, she wouldn't have struggled so much with this, as he notices she seems a little off. Izumi takes Shohei's hand and tells him it's time for the punishment game. Looking directly at Shohei, Izumi tells him that she wants to be with him for a little longer.